Welcome to Simply Happy Conversations, a podcast that teaches you how to create a clutter-free, functional, and simply happy life. I'm Narelle King, a professional organizer who supports families with practical steps to simplify their lives and create a more organized home. I'm passionate about supporting neurodivergent families and individuals like myself. Every fortnight, I also share guest conversations with experts passionate about the future of our home, health, and the planet, which will provide you with actionable takeaways to create a more organized and happy life. Are you a busy person who focuses on doing rather than being? Like me at times. Matt O'Neill, author, podcast host, and happiness expert, is today's podcast guest who recently attended a conference with Eckhart Tolle, the author of The Power of Now. He shares a powerful story from Eckhart Tolle that will have you stop and think about how you're living your life. He also shares practical ways to declutter your negative thinking and remove bad mood thought patterns so that you can achieve lasting happiness. Our conversation is a video recording that you can watch on YouTube, and don't forget to hit subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Today on Simply Happy Conversations, I'm talking with Matt Neal, and he's an author, a podcast host, and he's also a happiness expert. And he's going to help you to declutter your negative thinking and remove bad thought patterns to achieve lasting happiness. Welcome, Matt.
Oh, Narelle, thank you so much for having me today. It's such an honor to be here talking about happiness.
Oh, because I've heard a lot about your happiness journey, as well as listening to your podcast, which there's some fantastic advice and recommendations in there. So I really do highly recommend people go and check it out. So it's so great to have you. So maybe start by telling us, if you were a Ken doll and you had two accessories that you'd come with, what would they be? Just show us a little bit about you, apart from a happiness expert.
It's such a fun question. And, the first accessory I would come with is a journal. And it's because every morning I start my day with my journal. And this is just an opportunity to examine these negative thought patterns that get cluttered up in here and keep us from that true happiness. I've been reading for decades. And people would always say, oh, journaling is so important. And I didn't really understand how important it was until I began the habit myself. But every morning I sit there with a pen and a blank page. And I'm just searching, is there anything challenging going on in my mind today? Because here's the reality. The only things that can really hurt us are our own negative thoughts. Mm-hmm. That may seem like a bold statement, but it's really true. I've interviewed so many people on the Good Mood Revolution podcast who've had just really challenging outward experiences in the world who don't have a negative story about it. One woman named Wendy Wallace lost both her hands and both her feet due to a flesh-eating bacteria. And she says it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And here's a woman that no longer has hands or feet. So, if I lost both my hands and both my feet, my story would be pretty negative. And yet Wendy's is very positive and empowering. So it didn't actually hurt her to lose both her hands and both her feet. Her story is that this gives me an opportunity to now teach people about a closer connection to God. She just created a new story about it. And so it actually has turned into a powerful thing for her. So yeah, my journal would definitely be one of the two things that would come with my kit. The other one would be like probably a set of dumbbells, because I've found that exercise is one of the things that allows my mind to shut down. When I'm working my body, my mind shuts off, and then I feel really, really good afterwards. So that would be my Ken doll.
Oh, I love it. Yes, they're two great things that I love myself as well, both doing journaling as well as exercise in the morning, which is such a great thing to get your brain moving and just those natural high hormones, really, isn't it? And it's such a great two things.
I had a neuroscientist I spoke with named Alex Korb. He wrote this book called The Upward Spiral. And the book was about how to not be depressed. And Alex suffered from depression when he was in college. And so he was very interested in figuring out, why does the brain create depression? And he said, you will be very hard pressed to find somebody training for a marathon who's depressed, because daily exercise is, he said, better than any antidepressant medicine out there.
That's interesting. My husband's done a few marathons and he was just addicted to them. He loved it because he loved the feeling of the training and obviously the exercise. Yeah. So I can see how that, is a very positive thing to actually do.
Yeah, I think, it goes back to what I was saying. The only thing that can hurt us are our own negative thoughts. And when we work our body really hard, if we're really in flow with the exercise, it doesn't matter what it is. I love to play basketball. I'll lift weights. I'll run. I'll surf. Anything that is like a physical movement, if you're really engrossed in it, you can't think about anything else. My wife plays tennis, and she said, when I'm on the tennis court, I'm just there. I'm thinking about the ball and my next hit, and I'm not thinking about the kids or the homework that needs to be done or the work that needs to be done or all the laundry. She's like, all of that stuff is away. Yeah. And I'm just focused on the activity. And that's why I think physical exercise is one of the healthiest things we can do for our mind, not just our body.
Definitely. And I find that from organizing, it's such a physical job, and it really, I get a nice endorphin, reaction to helping people organize, but it's the physical moving things around as well, which also is amazing to get to do it all day long.
Yeah. And Narelle, you totally get engrossed in this activity of organizing, and your mind is just one with this activity. You're in a flow while you're organizing, and you're not probably thinking about tomorrow or the next day or what's going to, what happened yesterday. You're just in this moment doing the thing in front of you. And what's so great about organizing is you can see such a tangible result right before your eyes. Like you take something that went from chaos and you bring it into order, and right before your eyes, you have a whole transformation. It's a really beautiful thing.
It's I find it's really important to have the before and after photo, not necessarily just to be sharing, but just for that person to see that recognition, because they sort of go, oh, was it that bad? And then when you show them the photo, they're like, wow, this is amazing what we've achieved. So yeah, it's really important, I think, to have those two photos. So that leads me in. So as a professional organizer, if I came over to your place, is there an area you'd love assistance with?
Yes, my books. My office. I love to read, and I have a lot of books. And I just, every time I read a new one, or I'll order too many. I'm a book hoarder. I'll order all these books I think that I want to read, and I just so I have them available, right? But I don't have time to read all the books that I order, and so then they'll just end up getting in stacks and all disorganized on the bookshelf, because I'm not taking the time to create a system or have any type of organization there. And then it ends up looking messy. And this is my office where I'm working. And so I want it to be a very organized place so that my thinking is very organized.
And have you looked at other ways of reading books, or you actually like the physical book?
I love holding a book. Yeah. Especially a hardcover. I take notes. I use a pen. Obviously we can do so many things on electronics. I do my best to stay off of electronics as much as I can, because I'll just get sucked in. It's like I want to stare at screens as little as possible. Yeah. And I think holding a real book, it's got a soul to it. It's got a feeling to it. And there's a bunch of studies that say that when you use a pen and paper or a pencil and paper, that it is opening different pathways in your brain than typing on a computer.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I am a teacher as well. And when you see a lot of schools are still really enforcing that kids need, especially primary schools, to be reading, to write with paper and pen. It's not necessarily, it's maybe doing the research on their laptops and iPads, but it's the writing that's really important. So it's good to hear that we're taking on some of that, or they're taking on some of that research and putting it still into the classrooms.
Well, and this is kind of going into happiness as well. Every time we're lost in our thoughts, we are living a virtual reality. We're not in real reality. So I deleted the social media apps from my phone. This means if I want to go and make a post, I've got to go log into a computer. and make a post. Or if I want to see what's going on with other people's lives, I actually have to sit down at my computer. And it just keeps me off my phone and interacting with human beings, like real human beings, not these fake. I think I have relationships because I can see different people doing fun things on their phone, but actually like picking up the phone and calling my mom and telling her I love her, or reaching out to a buddy that I haven't talked to in a long time to really find out what's going on, not just reading about his post on social and thinking I know what's going on. And I'll tell you what happened from this. I had 3 college roommates, and we haven't gotten together. The 4 of us haven't gotten together in 20 years.
Oh, wow.
But we were keeping up with each other on social media. They'd see what I was doing. I'd see what they were doing. And we kind of had this thought that we were close, but we weren't close. And through me deleting my social media apps, I actually wanted to be close with them. So I invited all of them to my house, and we just spent a great weekend together reconnecting. And we've already planned the next get together for next year. And this is, I think, one of the things that all of this digital world does is it is making us more isolated with the thought that we're connected.
Yeah, definitely. And seeing that with like I have 2 young teenagers, and seeing that with their lives compared to even my generation and friends who like to book yearly to even 6 months catch-ups, just to see their generation, and hoping that they will come out and be like, we still need connection with people.
Well, it's really, I think the biggest issue with mental health is that we're living in this digital virtual world and not living in the real world with real connection. We were designed, like human beings were designed, we came up in tribes. We are designed to have daily interaction, eye to eye, heart to heart with other human beings. And I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but we are a whole lot less happy when we isolate and we're alone.
Yeah, and just on phones all the time. I don't know about you over in America, but if you drive past a bus stop in the mornings, the young people are just on their phones. I'm just like, what? We didn't even have phones when I was at school.
No,
it was just conversation.
Right. Like when I was coming up in high school, the pager had come out. And like you would page people different numbers that meant different things.
Yeah.
But and then the cell phone came out when I was in college.
Oh yeah, well it was after uni for me that I traveled around the whole of Europe with no phone and internet cafes.
And you were just there. You were just there. You were being. This is what Eckhart Tolle was saying: is that our unhappiness comes from being lost in our mind and in the doing. Our happiness comes from just being where we are and interacting with what's around us in the real world. And so you were in Europe. Whoever was there, whatever you were seeing, and what a happy experience.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us a little bit about Eckhart Tolle, because you did have a conference with him recently, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. I flew to California where he was giving a 4-day lecture. And his lecture was on conscious manifestation, but it really wasn't. It was really about how to become enlightened. And his definition of enlightenment is to get out of the thinking mind and into just like into being in this present moment. Of course, he wrote that book, The Power of Now. And he said the power of now is still the answer. It's like, how can I just be in the now, in the present where I am? And he told a really beautiful story from the Bible about 2 sisters, Mary and Martha. And Jesus comes to Mary and Martha's house. And Martha's like, oh my gosh, Jesus is coming. I need to do all these things and prepare for, the Son of God and make sure that everything is perfect for him. So she's off busy, like making lunch and preparing things and setting the table. And Mary just sits down next to Jesus and is just like one with him and is just at his feet and is just basking in the glory of this enlightened being. And Martha looks at Jesus and she's like, are you going to tell Mary to get up and help me? She's just sitting down doing nothing. And Jesus says, do not give your sister a hard time. You're off there busy doing many things, but Mary is doing the only thing that really matters. And Eckhart tells this story from the Bible, and then he says, Mary and Martha are not two sisters. It's a metaphor. It's the two parts of us. That we've got this Martha that thinks it needs to do all these things and is so busy thinking about all these things and getting all these things done. And then we got this other part of us, the Mary, which is just wants to be where we are. And he said, this is how we like combine the having to do and think with the being. How we combine that is how we live an enlightened life. So we can be organizing, and you can be totally lost in the flow of organizing, where you're not, like we said, not thinking about tomorrow or the things that you have to do or who said what yesterday or what's bothering you. You're just like lost in the activity of organizing. And that is really being your Mary while you're doing the Martha activity. And that's when we're our happiest, because it's just like who we are. And this was Eckhart Tolle's message, and that story kind of encapsulates the whole weekend.
That's amazing. And I think what I loved most when I heard you saying that story on your own podcast, I was like, oh, that was me, I'd say maybe 10 years ago, before I started doing yoga. I did do yoga, but before I started to get into more the theory behind yoga and about the mindfulness of it, and not just the actual physical practice of it. And that has helped me to be both the Mary and Martha as well, because I was pretty much Martha when my kids were younger. That was me rushing around trying to do everything.
I feel like we all are. And there's things that need to be done. Katie and I, my wife and I have 4 children, ages 10 to 2. There's a lot of Martha. There is. There's diapers to change and homework to be done and get your shoes on and get in the car and hurry up. There's a lot of doing that has to be done. But if we don't put the being part with it, then all we do is stress out. And so, Eckhart said, if you find yourself stressed, you've gone too much into Martha. You've made the doing more important than the being. And maybe my kids are late for school. Is that really a problem? It's not really a problem. It's just only our thoughts that say that's a problem. That's a problem. I think the bigger problem would be they're late for school and I'm yelling at them. Yes, and I'm all stressed, and then they're all stressed, and then everybody's not happy. Martha's the one that creates the problems. Mary's not. Yeah.
So then for you, what has helped you to be more in the moment yourself? What sort of practices have you brought into your life?
So I love yoga, and I love exactly how you described it. The meditative aspect of yoga is really the important part. So for me, I have a daily meditation, and it's not long. Every morning I stop, I just sit and I just notice my breath, and then I'll breathe in and I'll breathe in peace, and then I'll breathe out love. I'll breathe in joy and I'll breathe out harmony. And I'm just focusing on this breath again to shut these thoughts down long enough to where just sitting there, I can actually feel my heart beating, because I'm getting so in tune with just what is there, is this breath and the heart. And I can feel like the energy pulsing through my hands. And once I get to that point where I can actually notice my body being alive, I know that I've gone beyond all of the stressful thinking and I'm just being where I am. And at that point, I pray. And so I'll pray, and my prayers always start with gratitude. I thank God that my heart is beating today. I thank Him for beautiful moments from the day before. And then I just ask to be guided today, because again, like we think we need to control the future, and it's kind of our mind that says I have to think about what to do next. And if I'm not always thinking about what to do next, something's going to go wrong and I'm going to be in big trouble. And it's actually the opposite. It's all the thinking about what to do next and thinking we're in control that ends up getting us super stressed out. And then if we're living stressed out and anxious and fearful, this is kind of the thoughts and the feelings of being stressed out then create stressed action. And then our stress action creates a poor destiny. If we can shut down all the stress and the thinking, God's actually guiding us all the time. And everything just kind of works out beautifully for us. So that the more beautiful we can make our emotional state, the more harmonious our action, the more kind our action, and then our destiny ends up being really beautiful and kind. So every morning I'm just trying to get out of the thinking and then just praying for God to just guide me where I'm supposed to go, and then just being like totally happy with however it's going.
Yeah. So yours was definitely the meditation and the praying that really center you for the start of your day. And
meditation and prayer are essentials for me. And and I am a big fan of yoga. It's just, again, with the amount of things that I have on my plate, that's a longer time commitment than maybe a 10-minute meditation.
Definitely. It's funny though. I think back to my 20s when I did yoga, originally started doing it, and I was living in London, and it was like to help with stress management. But you'd get to the end of the Shavasana and I'd be lying there going, why do we need this bit? I just want to get up. I just need to keep going. I've got to. And now though, I'm like, this is my favorite part. And then when I'm actually teaching it, it's like trying to instill that this is actually the most important part and this is the best part, and really enjoy this moment of stillness.
And your posture is so beautiful. You've got I can tell how much yoga you do with the way you sit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you've got wonderful posture.
Oh, thank you. So then, as a podcast host, author, and coach, what strengths do you bring to others to then help them find lasting happiness?
Yeah, again, it's always about the story we're telling ourselves. So the only problem we have is a negative story. And it's really just easy for me to hear somebody tell me about the problems that they have, and then notice which of the 8 bad mood stories they're telling themselves. And there's 8 primary bad mood stories that we'll tell. You and I were talking before the show started about the worst of them, which is shame. This kind of bad mood story that something's wrong with us, that we're not as good as others, that we're flawed in some way. Well, if once you recognize the pattern, and there's only 8 major patterns, you can then help somebody out of that pattern. Because the negative story is never a true story. It's just a story that we've made up. And it, like, let's say with the shame pattern, as soon as I notice that somebody has a feeling that there's something wrong with them, a very simple thing to do is to just ask them to identify exactly what those thoughts are. Like, I'm unworthy of love. I'm not as good as others. There's something wrong with me. I'm inherently flawed. And then we just take all of those thoughts and we say the exact opposite. I was designed perfectly. How I am is the way that I'm supposed to be. I'm totally loved. I'm completely worthy. I'm incredible the way I am. And then now we've just created the truth, which is all of those are true statements. And then we just reinforce the truth. And through repetition, maybe 30 days of repetition of the truth, we can completely reverse that negative narrative. And anytime you fall back into it, because we will, we just, again, reaffirm the truth. And the truth is so much more stronger. It's so much stronger than that lie that it takes hold very, very fast. And that's how we heal.
I love that. I did a lot of that practice years ago. If you ever got into my head back when I was 20, it was terrible the way I talked to myself. But through affirmations, like you're talking about, that has really helped. And yeah, I definitely recommend that to people. So can you quickly touch on what are the 8 bad mood thought patterns?
Yeah. So the first that we just discussed was shame. And it's the most destructive. All of the worst acts of humanity, like the worst of the worst, just any vile, terrible act of humanity is coming from shame. It's this feeling that there's something wrong with me. And then you're like, you feel so bad about yourself that you're just in complete hurt and you're lost in this world of basically hell on earth. And because of that hurt, you're then just outward expressing hurting others. So we all have some of this wound that we need to heal ourselves. All of us do. And it sounds like you've done that work, and it's beautiful when we do heal it. The good news is that because we all have to deal with it, once we do heal it, we can then teach others. And now our pain becomes our purpose. The next, which is the second most destructive of those bad mood thought patterns, is guilt. And guilt, anytime I hear somebody that's really judgmental, because the opposite side of guilt is judgment, guilt is just self-judgment. I did something wrong. I deserve punishment. I'm bad because of the things I've done. And so judgment, where they're wrong, they're bad, they're doing something wrong, they deserve punishment. That's just an outward projection of our own guilt. So when I hear a really judgmental person, I know that there's somebody that's beating themselves up twice as bad in their own mind. And guilt doesn't help us. I like to tell in my book that's coming out later this year, The Good Mood Revolution, I tell a story about a child that sees a burning hot stove and is just so curious. They put their hand on the stove. And of course, it blisters their fingers. They're screaming in pain. You wouldn't go over to your child that had just burned their fingers and then yell at them and shout them and tell them how awful they were and how bad they had done. You would go and you'd give them love and support and give them a hug. Do you think that child's going to go to the next hot stove and then put their hand on it?
Well, you'd hope not.
No. The consequence of burning your hand is so intense. We're all so intelligent. All humans are so intelligent. The consequence of burning our hand on that stove was enough to know not to do it again. We don't need the story that we deserve to be punished on top of the negative consequence. It's just a story that we tell ourselves that, and it comes from doing something wrong and then our parents or our elders punishing us for it. And then we grow up and we become our own parent or elder. And when we do something wrong, because we were taught that we're supposed to get punished when we do something wrong, we punish ourselves. But it's not helpful. The worse we feel inside, the worse we do on the outside. What we really need is love, compassion, and understanding for ourselves, because then instead of judging you and telling you that you're wrong and you're bad, I give you love, compassion, and understanding. And that's how we actually heal people. So after guilt, the next emotion is hopelessness. And hopelessness is not out there like hurting other people, but it is the emotion where we can hurt ourselves. And hopelessness is just this feeling that life is so hard. It's so heavy that it's beyond hope. There's no use. There's nothing I can do. The only way out of hopelessness is help. You need somebody else to help you. You cannot get out of that emotion on your own. So I'm a huge advocate of psychiatrists and coaches and psychologists and people who are really trained to help you and can pull you up. And that's what you need in that emotion. The next emotion is sadness. And sadness is beautiful. It's beautiful and lovely. And but we're all going to experience it and there's no way around it because everything changes. And all the good things we don't want to change are going to change. You know, like nobody's making it out of here alive. All the people we love are going to die. It's like just a truth, the way it is. Our bodies will age. They won't work the way they used to work. So we can get sad about things changing, but things changing is actually what makes life so beautiful. Because if everything lasted forever, we just take it all for granted. So sadness can teach us to appreciate more what we have today. When we lose something we love, we can appreciate what we have even more. So it's one of my favorite bad mood emotions, but we don't want to stay stuck there. You know, there's people that can live their life perpetually sad about things changing. I know people that way. You know, you kind of want to take the lesson that I didn't want to lose that, but now I'm going to take the lesson and I'm going to appreciate what I still have even more. That's the way out of sadness. The next emotion is emotion of fear and anxiety. Again, we can live anxious and fearful. The mind's always like looking out for what can happen next and what can go wrong. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier when I said you don't want to use your thoughts to always be vigilant for what's going to go wrong, because what you'll do is you'll manifest it. Anything you put a lot of attention to, you attract more of. So if you're always putting attention to what's going to go wrong, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then you're using the power of attraction to attract things that'll go wrong. And you're like, I knew I should be afraid of that. Here it is.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to live anxious or fearful. It's useful. You know, we want to, when we have that emotion of fear, it's our consciousness saying, look at this thing that could go wrong. But then the way out of it is to take action to protect ourselves and then let it go. After fear, the next emotion is lust or desire. And again, powerful, it's very positive. Like I want something good. Also insatiable. So billionaires are a really good example of somebody that has been stuck in desire. Usually super unhappy people stuck in desire. It's never enough. You can never accomplish enough to feel good about yourself. I've been stuck in that emotion for sure. But it's good. It's a powerful emotion because it can help us like decide what we want, and then we want to decide what we want and then let it go and be in the now. The next is anger, and the last is pride. We all know what anger is like. Again, it can be powerful. It can be positive if we use anger to say, I don't like the way things are and I'm going to make a change. Anger can be really, really destructive when we think other people are to blame and we're going to be angry and vengeful about life and other people and how awful they are. That is where we're playing the role of a victim. And you'll never have happiness as a victim. You cannot. The two cannot coexist. So, I think the way out of anger is to understand that when we feel like a victim, we are really hurt and afraid, and then dealing with the main emotions of fear and emotional hurt and overcoming those misperceptions, and then getting back into, well, how do I want my life to look? And then being responsible for how we want it to look. And then the last one, pride. Again, there's a healthy version of pride. This, I'm proud of myself and my accomplishments. There's also extremely unhealthy versions of pride, which is I'm better than you and I'm better than everyone. And then some people are better than me and I'm going to look down on you and I'm going to have arrogance. And you're not going to find somebody acting super prideful and feeling better than others that's also happy, because those two things cannot coexist.
I love these. The three that stand out to me for what I see with organizing is the shame, the guilt, and the fear are the three that probably stand out the most, that people, those emotions are the ones that they may be stuck with, and that's the ones that they want to sort of move through by decluttering their actual home. So their actual physical space is around those three emotions who have kept them stuck, but they're like, I want to move through now.
Yeah, and then now the positive emotions that I talk about in the second half of my book are having confidence and taking action and being responsible. So decluttering is such a beautiful act of taking your power and saying, I am going to be confident and I'm going to take powerful action to make things better in my life. And action is one of the ways we get out of bad moods. So yeah, I could see guilt, like, oh, I have this thing, I paid a lot of money for it, I better hold on to it. Or this person gave me this thing I'm never going to use, and so I don't want to hurt their feelings, so I'm going to hold on to it. Or shame, I'm unworthy of nice things, or I'm unworthy of a nice space, so I'm just going to have an awful cluttered space, but I don't deserve a clean one. Well, as soon as we just take action and declutter all of these things, we start to feel good about ourselves and worthy. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy again in a positive way. But fear could be another one of those things, like, maybe there's not going to be enough.
Yep.
So I need to hold on to this stuff that I have. And what if I need it one day? Well, you haven't used it in 2 years, but what if I need it one day? So when my wife and I moved in together, I'm somebody that does not like clutter. And I would get rid of so many things, just donate and donate and donate. And I donated these 2 dog cages that she had in her attic. And I stopped telling her what I was donating. I was just clearing, right? I'm just getting rid of stuff that, and then we get a puppy and she goes and looks in the attic and she says, where did the dog cages go? And this is like 5 years later. And I said, oh, I donated those 5 years ago. And she said, but we need them.
And it's that money of this is prime real estate we've been paying otherwise for those cages to live rent-free in our home for, we didn't actually need them yet. So
what we did? We just put the puppy in the bathroom.
Yeah.
We didn't even get another cage.
Yeah.
So she had that fearful thought, that hoarding thought, that I can't believe you got rid of this thing that we were going to need 5 years later. And then it turned out we didn't even need it.
Yeah. It's that creativity that it actually helps foster by not having those things. I don't know, like even say a platter. It's like, do I really need this massive platter that I haven't used for ages? Or could we just make do with a casserole dish instead that could convert as both? But yeah, looking creatively around your house like you did with the puppy, it can just go in the bathroom instead.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really beautiful. It's freeing to
Yes,
not have all these things. You feel so much lighter and so much more free to not have all of these things. I read this book early in my career, and it was about being organized at work. And one of his rules was that you don't keep paper. And I was keeping all kinds of notes, and I had stacks and stacks of notes. And he just said, if you write something down, that's fine. But then you have to get it off of your desk. It has to go somewhere. And so I would, maybe take a picture of it with my phone and then throw it out. But I've stuck with this. I take notes all the time, mostly just to imprint it in my brain.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, but I feel like I might need this note. This note could be very, very important. And I'll just take a picture of it with my phone. And here's the thing. I've never gone back to the pictures of my phone.
but don't you know, never.
but it's just the thought, I can't let this go. This thing is too important. And but so that's why a nice little snapshot on your phone allows your brain to say, oh, okay. If I do need it, it's there. But you never need it.
Yeah. I find I've got a diary and I write in the back of that, and I love, every now and then just having a look and reminding myself, oh, that's right, I listened to that podcast and that was a really good saying, or whatever it was that I reminded myself of doing. So I do like looking back at that, but I'm the same as you. I don't keep bits of paper. It has to be away. Well,
Narelle, I mean, that's a good point. So I have all of my daily journals, and I've been journaling every day for a decade. And all of these journals are there. And I think, one day I may go back and read, but it's been 10 years and I haven't, but one day I may, and they're all there.
So when there's that might.
I get some benefit from the daily journal. Every week I have a ritual that I'll read back through the past week. And I want to extract what were the biggest lessons, the biggest takeaways. So I'm reliving the beautiful parts of the week every week. And then once a quarter, I go back and I review the weekly summaries. And I relive the most beautiful moments of the last quarter. And that's been my practice. I haven't reviewed a whole year before. I'll just review just a week and then a quarter. And then I'm just holding on to these journals. And maybe that's my vice. Again, this is my office. I told you that if there's one place to organize, it's my office. You'd be like, Matt, what are you doing with these decades of journals? And I'd say, I don't know, Narelle. I just can't get rid of them.
But you could keep just those pages of the summary, because I really like how you've gone back, summarized that and kept that, and keep just that part and get rid of the rest of it would be good. And even take a photo of it.
Yeah, I could just take a photo of it, right?
Yeah.
But then what if I lost my phone?
Well, because it'll be in the cloud.
What if the cloud malfunctions? I know
I don't know about
this is the fear part, right? This is this is the emotional hang up of holding on to things. And especially these things that we think we can't get back. I think photos, family photos and everything's in the cloud, which is great. But there's still this thought, I can't replace those photos. They're irreplaceable.
No, definitely. Yes. The photos are a really important thing to have somewhere backed up, hard drive, cloud, even printed a few possibly is a good idea. So that's definitely something I value is photos. And I like to look back on my year and look back at my photos. And that's how I sort of remember times with my kids, but even just my job. I love looking back at those memories.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. My wife and I had an anniversary a few years ago, and we were at dinner, and we were that couple that pulled out our phone. But what we were doing was we were going back through the year, and we would take turns of each sharing a photo that we had on our phone that was a special moment from that year, and just telling our story about what that moment was. It's amazing how much life we lived that we just forgot that we lived. Whole vacations we took that we didn't even think we took,
Yeah. My kids still, even teenagers, actually really enjoy that, us getting out our phones and finding, old memories, old videos of them when they were a lot younger. So, yeah, it's good.
I know.
It's
My
great
heart melts
fun
just
time.
thinking about it. Like all these little beautiful milestones that we just totally forget about. My son is he's now almost 3, and he's talking in full sentences.
Yeah.
But just not too long ago, he was saying his first words, and it's just, that moment just goes by so quick.
Yeah. And I think that's a really great thing for kids to then see themselves, like, especially at 12 and 15 now. They're like, really? That was me? That's how I talked. That's how I walked. Looking back on those memories for them. So, Matt, is there anything you'd like to finish with? Anything you'd like to share? Maybe it's like something that listeners could do, to help them to bring more happiness.
Yes. So we're so negative on ourselves and we're so hard on ourselves. And we think it's really, really helping us. But it's really our brain. Our brain is focused on what we're not doing well. And I lived this way for probably 30 years. So the first 30 years of my life, I was my worst critic. No one was harder on me than me. And I thought being hard on myself was why I was successful. I thought, if I was easy on myself, I would just be lazy. It's because I'm such a hard taskmaster. That's why I'm successful. And it's actually the opposite. When we're hard on ourselves, when we tell ourselves we're not doing well enough, that we could have done better, we actually make ourselves feel bad. And when we feel bad, we don't do well. We do worse. Just so that you can, if you're listening to this episode, you can think about this for your own life. When was the last time you felt really bad about yourself and then you went out and were amazing that day? Like think about you got in a fight with your spouse and you said some really stupid things and they were crying or they were super upset and you made a big mistake and then you're beating yourself up for the mistake. How good are you at work that day? Like I can't even concentrate. When I feel terrible like that about something I did wrong and I'm beating myself up for it, like, I'm my worst self. But then I think about another day when you feel on top of the world, like you're so happy you're high-fiving people at the coffee shop, that you're like giving people compliments you don't even know. Like on those days when you feel amazing, what can you do on those days? Like anything. So the goal here to be a very happy person is to stop being hard on ourselves and to stop dwelling on the things we've done wrong. I have a very simple process for this. Your brain, by the way, is always going to tell you the stuff you did wrong. And this is hardwired from survival. Like back when we were coming up in tribes and living in the jungle, if you made one wrong move, if you grabbed the wrong berries, your whole, all people you love could die because you poisoned them. So the mistakes were life and death. And that's why we are so hard on ourselves, is because these mistakes had such high consequences. Well, not anymore. They really don't. And this hardwired, like being hard on ourselves thing is not helping us now. It's actually hindering us. So every day I just write down 3 things I did really well. My brain will always tell me all the things I did wrong. It doesn't stop. It doesn't matter how positive you become. Your brain's always like, I can't believe you said that thing. You said that stupid thing and everyone was listening and then they all think you're stupid now. Your brain will always bring that up. But every morning I counteract that negativity by saying, but what did I do right yesterday? So yesterday, I'll just tell you, from my own experience, every single day I do this. I sit there until I can come up with 3 things I did right. And I write down those 3 things. There's something really powerful about taking a thought out of your mind and writing it down on paper. So yesterday I formatted the format of the upcoming book. That was a really positive thing. I didn't get through the whole thing, but I got through a few chapters and really liked the way the format looks. And yesterday, my daughter had her first day of surf camp. And she came home and she said, Dad, I stood up on 16 waves. And I was so proud of her. And I gave her the biggest hug, and she was so proud. And it was this beautiful win of a moment because she's been really afraid of surfing. And I've taken her out before, and she has been, just afraid of doing it. So even though it's not my personal win, it was a win because I was there to experience it with her. And then yesterday I got to play basketball with my buddy. And so these three things, they're small, right? This was just my day yesterday. If we don't recount the things we're doing well, our brain just doesn't pay attention to them because our brain is only focused on our survival. And if something's going well, it just is like, okay, we got that covered. No need to think about it anymore. It's not going to help us survive to think about how nice we were to our daughter. Let's just omit that and then focus on how you messed up yesterday so you can get better at it. But as we said, as we focus on how we mess up, we feel worse and then we do worse. So a very simple thing, every morning, take out a paper and a pen and say, what 3 things did I do well yesterday? In time, this daily habit, you'll start to notice what you're doing well while you're doing it. And you'll be like, oh, that was good. And then you'll start to notice other people, what they're doing well as they're doing it. And you'll say, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I can't believe you just did that. And then they'll feel so good. And then you'll feel so good recognizing they felt so good. And this is just the one simple habit that elevates everyone's well-being around you and mostly yourself.
Yeah, it's great. I do remember doing it a few years ago. It was like an exercise when I was teaching full time. And it was great because it actually was more about the kids that you were teaching to be able to acknowledge all of those things that they did. But I love how you've brought it back that it's helping us as well. The exercise we did was to help our students. But yes, this is actually helping us as well as everyone else around you.
Yeah, Narelle, as a teacher, did you notice that when you affirmed what children were doing well, that they actually were performing better?
Yeah, definitely. And you just naturally picked it up. It was it was based on a study. It would have been maybe 10 years ago. And it was at a particular school, and it was one practice they suggested we all did. And then we actually wrote them on postcards. At least one student would get acknowledged, and the postcard would get sent to that family in the mail. So they'd get that as well, which I thought was a great practice. Oh my gosh,
those kids must have been beaming that their teacher sent them something in the mail that talked about how good they were doing. Oh man. You're giving me chills just thinking about how powerful that is.
Yeah. And I can't remember who it was, but it was a speaker who came and talked, and it was about, positive emotions and positive psychology. And this is one of the practices that the school brought on. And for me, I was like, I really enjoyed this, but not just about the kids, but then looking at, like you've just summarized, looking at my own life and then seeing positive things around me too, and slowing down those negative thoughts and the ego. Saying, hang on a minute.
Yeah, that's interesting. You get to be your own teacher. You get to be your own teacher that says, oh, there you go, Narelle. You did that well. Good job. Yes. Here's a gold star. Yeah. Who doesn't want that every day? I want my teacher to recognize me every single day about what I'm doing right. And we get to be that teacher for ourselves.
Definitely. So, Matt, how can people reach out to you, contact you, and give us a link? I will add some links in the show notes, but what's the best place for people to contact you?
Yeah, the best place to plug in is the Good Mood Revolution podcast. And the book that I have coming out this year is for pre-order right now on Amazon. And it's also called Good Mood Revolution.
I love that when it's all simple and the same name. That makes it so much easier. Thank you so much for your time, but also sharing your knowledge and experience over the last few years and how you've moved into this happiness area of life, which is so great. And you're able to now share this with other people and influence their lives.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for the beautiful happiness work you're doing out in the world. You're making such a huge difference.
Oh, so are you. Thanks, Matt. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Simply Happy conversation. If you find yourself wasting precious time searching for misplaced items and wishing for a more organized life, then you need my 5-minute declutter ebook. the ultimate guide to quick and easy organizing solutions for a clutter-free and happy home. Forget about spending months KonMariing your house. These fun solutions are designed to give you immediate results in under 5 minutes. Head over to Simply Happy in the resource section and download your free copy and start seeing results in minutes. I'd like to acknowledge the Wathaurong people of the Kulin Nation on which this podcast is recorded as the traditional custodians of the land. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging.